Okay. So as you're coming in, or if you're staying, I'd love it if you said hello, either turn your camera on and wave, you can turn your mic on and say hi, or just text in the chat where you're joining from. I'm just so excited. I'm in, yay, hello, Alina, Sally. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, in the US, so right in the middle of the United States. Hello, so lucky. Excellent. The Netherlands. Hi, Sarah. Kamala, welcome. Excellent. Ramanda, hello. I hope I said that correctly. Welcome. Thumbs up. I think that means yes. Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started here. And again, I'll just introduce myself. Sally, if you want to start the recording, just any time now. Excellent. Okay. Thank you. I see. Okay. So welcome. Namaste. My name is Katie Brown, and this practice is more of a chat about the practice of presence. It's called the power of presence, and you likely read the description, and that's why you're here. So you've got some sort of inkling about, or curiosity about different ways to access presence. I wanted to start by addressing how presence is different from mindfulness. And in my experience and in the English language, there is a subtle difference that has to do with somatics. Somatics means, soma means the body. So somatics means of the body. So for me, a presence practice is very somatic. It's very much experienced through the senses. And then through the limb of yoga that we call pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. So it's more than just being thoughtful, right? Which is what mindful kind of means. It's being really like there in your body with what's happening at any given time. And I think there's different ways to access this, and we'll kind of talk about that today. But I wanted to start our practice with a moment to ground and to center, to come into the present moment, as it were. So if you'd find a comfortable way to sit or lie down if you prefer, I'd invite you to do that now. You can take a second to adjust the body. I encourage and invite you to not just land necessarily the first place you land, but to get a little curious. Maybe you wiggle the hips a little. If you're on the back, maybe you walk the shoulders underneath you, or if you're seated, maybe you roll the shoulders a couple times. Let the head maybe tick-tock on the shoulders a little bit. That can be big or a small movement. And when you're ready, just settle the body into a comfortable stillness and close down the eyes. So we'll start by just bringing our awareness to the sensation of the breath without controlling the breath. Just notice how and where you sense your own body's breathing. Noticing the sense of touch in particular, how the breath moves at the nostrils, or how it shifts your clothes on your body as you breathe. And then from there, if you'd bring awareness to any place in the body that feels heavy, particularly a place where you can feel your body connecting to your cushion or the floor. Just feeling the weight of your body without judgment. And then feeling the sensation, the temperature, the air in the room. And we talked about this a little already, but the sensation of your clothes on your skin. And then shifting your focus to your sense of sound, to your ears, noticing any sounds in your space. Maybe the sound of the heater, their air conditioning, the hum of a refrigerator, any cars outside, birds outside. And then taking a big deep breath in through your nose, noticing your sense of smell. Are there any smells that you can connect with in this moment? And then from sense of smell, we move our awareness to sense of taste, maybe swallowing, maybe letting the tongue roll around in the mouth, slide over the teeth. It's important not to place any judgment upon the senses, but just to feel them from a neutral place. And then from here, you'll slowly start to float open your eyes. Without moving the head around, notice what the eyes are taking in. Cedric talked a little bit about this yesterday, if you were in that session. Just noticing what you can see, maybe noticing something you haven't noticed in your space. And then when you feel ready, let the eyes float closed again, drop back into the body, into the inner world, inner experience. Starting to draw your awareness down and in to a place that's quiet and calm, undisturbed by anything you touch, taste, smell, hear, or see. This is pratyahara. And this is the practice of becoming present with the witness, with your own internal sense of peace and wellness, stillness, retreating to a peaceful and safe space. From this place, let's take a big deep inhale through the nose. And a big open mouth exhale. Let the eyes float open. Let your body move in any way that feels good after that. So maybe a stretch, maybe some movement through the joints, the hands, the feet, the ankles, the wrists. All right. So those of you that joined during that little guided meditation, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Again, my name is Katie, and this is the power of presence. So we went through that little exercise to really see all the different ways we can access present moment awareness. I like to break it up into these categories of touch and taste and smell and sight and sound. And to really find these pockets of presence throughout our days, I think helps to really ground us in the experience of being alive. In my experience, and in the experience of many of my students, I would love to hear in the chat if this has been accurate for you as well. Finding these little moments of pause is about more than just being mindful. It's about dropping back into the wisdom of the body. And learning, the more we can kind of drop back into the wisdom of the body, learning to then trust that wisdom and to know the difference or discern the difference between real and perceived threat. So this kind of goes back to the nervous system, right? The nervous system's tendency to activate when there is a perceived threat, when there is fear. And unfortunately, our physical body doesn't discern very well the difference between a tiger in our physical space and a deadline that we have to meet, or an expectation from a partner or a friend that perhaps we feel we're failing to provide. And so when we can take these moments of coming back to the wisdom of the body, grounding back in the moment that is, we can start to create a little bit of space between whatever it is that's triggering the nervous system and the body in a way that allows us to respond and, again, start to teach the body the difference between these real and perceived threats. So this kind of goes into why we do this presence practice. It also helps us to develop the witness consciousness through techniques like yin yoga. The yin yoga practice is my favorite thing about the yin yoga practice, but also things like drawing practices, art practices. This helps us to develop that witness consciousness. We can see the difference between our hand and what we're putting on the page, or the difference between what we're feeling emotionally, mentally, and what we're experiencing, because that's not always it's not always congruent. It's not always together at the same time. So the more we can practice meditation, the more we can practice, and that is a practice of pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses, the more we can practice being really physically with whatever we are doing, the easier it is to understand that we are not our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, even our actions. They don't make up the whole of who we are. So it just creates a little bit more of a sense of peace in our lives. Forgive me for looking down. I just want to make sure that time-wise, I'm good on our talk today. Honing the ability to listen to the wisdom of the body also helps us to set better boundaries, clearer boundaries for ourselves. When we can develop this really loving relationship with the body by way of allowing ourselves to experience what the body's really feeling in reaction to the task at hand or to what's going on in the mind, we start to develop this almost friendship with the body that then becomes over time a reverence, right? And we start to want to respect the body and its boundaries. And we have a little bit more of an easy time saying, no, that is too much for me in this moment, without it being a heavy or kind of charged, emotionally charged thing. We're able to discern when stimuli is too much for us, when we get to know really the detailed sensations of the body's experience to stimuli. For a lot of us, that is sound stimuli, so especially if you've got kids and there's, if you've ever been in a car with kids and they're yelling and the music's on and somebody honks, there's a lot more of a tendency to react or trigger. So maybe in that moment through your presence practice, you've learned that even just turning the radio off would be a helpful thing, or you can't really control the actions of, your children in that scenario, but how can you find a little bit less stimuli to bring yourself a little bit more peace and ease? So I wanted to go through each of the 5 senses and kind of brainstorm with you some ways that we can access presence and play around with these little presence practices so that you can bring them into your daily life. I offer a program. It's a 31-day program called Presence that will start in March, and that will consist of a calendar of daily small presence tasks that are designed to kind of get you out of maybe your typical tasks and maybe challenge you to access presence in different ways. And that'll come alongside daily emails and check-ins and all of that. If you're interested in that, I'll give you more info at the end. But for now, I just wanted to go through these different tips and techniques so that perhaps you can find something new that you hadn't thought of to take that moment of pause in your life. So let's start with touch. So for sense of touch, things like Abhyanga, which is a practice from the Ayurvedic tradition of oil massaging. If you've never practiced Abhyanga, it is ritualistic, which is really lovely. And it's a nice way to feel and connect with your own skin, the largest organ that we have. So with Abhyanga, oil massage, you would massage the body slowly with oils before you bathe or shower. This is one of my favorite ways to connect to sense of touch. Also self-massage in any capacity, whether you're doing that just seated through the clothes, even touching your own body, squeezing your own arms, massaging your own hands. This is a way I find that we often maybe not neglect the body, but a really beautiful opportunity. And I hope that you, like me, are maybe taking a moment to touch your own body now and to feel how that grounds you back into your skin, a way that we kind of forget. It's easy to access. Showers and baths. So I think this falls under the category of touch. As we connect with the water, washing over the body or soaking in the water, the temperature of the water. Other things like grounding, earthing. So walking or stepping onto the ground with bare feet, a beautiful way to become present. And all of these practices, I encourage you to really start small with them. Some of them you can incorporate into your daily life in terms of 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe 15, depending on what you have time for in your schedule. I think these are really beautiful ways to, set aside a moment to just connect back in. So beyond those, Abhyanga, self-massage, any other ideas, baths, showers, grounding? I'd love to hear any ideas that you have or ways that you like to access sense of touch, particularly. So you can just drop those in the chat, or if you have something you want to add and you want to unmute, I'd love to hear your voice, see your face. So ways to access presence through sense of touch. Any artists in here? We'll get to taste in a minute, Caroline, but taste is also, they're interrelated, right? So taste, especially with texture of food, is sense of touch. Yeah. Finger painting. Anyone ever gotten in some oil paints and just felt the sensation of finger painting? Yeah. A beautiful way to access presence. Any other ideas for ways that we can utilize sense of touch to help us become a little bit more present in the moment with the body? Cuddling your cat. I love that. Absolutely. Fur, petting animals. Cuddling pets. I locked the cats out of the session today, but maybe I'll bring them in. Foot massage. Yeah, this is a beautiful one. If any of you are yoga teachers in this group, or even if you just regularly practice yin, this is one I highly encourage you to incorporate in classes, especially in poses like butterfly pose. Great opportunity to massage your own feet to help you to become present with the body in that way. Yeah. Gardening, that's a great idea. I'm not a gardener, so I hadn't thought of that, to be honest. But absolutely getting your hands in the dirt, in the soil. Yeah, I love that. Sense of touch for me, I think, is one of the most grounding. I'd be curious to hear from you if sense of touch is a way that you really like to access, or if it's helpful to you to access presence and present moment awareness, or if it's something you tend to forget about. When we were going through the little guided meditation, was there walking barefoot in the grass? Yeah. When we were going through the guided meditation, was there a particular sense that stood out for you as being really grounding? I'm just curious. Hmm. Okay. Let's move on then to a sense of smell. Smell is maybe a little bit harder to connect with for some of us. That may be due to allergies. Very literal, congestion in the winter months. Or maybe like me, you have a kind of lower sense of smell than some. But sense of smell is really nice because in scent, you've got that little bit of distance between what you're experiencing and yourself, right? With sense of touch, you're very much right there with the sensation. Sense of smell, there is this separation, this distance. I gesture up to my incense that's wafting through the room at the moment. So for sense of smell, how often do you take time to just notice what you're smelling? Notice the reaction of the body to the smell of baking cookies, right? The smell of garlic simmering in a pan. Daily. Yeah, I mean, for some people, I think sense of smell is really profound. Smell can bring so much joy and memory. I think there's a connection to memory that scent really provokes for us, a neurological connection. And I think smell is another way that we can start to notice one of what we call the kleshas in yogic terminology, which are the ways that the veils or the ways that we kind of hide ourselves from our truth or are hidden from our truth. And what I mean by that is that we can have an emotional reaction that's either positive or really negative to sense of smell, right? And in that, we start to notice what's called raga and dvesha, our desire to be closer to something or to stay away from something. It's like and dislike, right? So if we can become a little bit more neutral with sense of smell, we can start to then connect more with presence, because there's no opinion with presence, right? There's no desire or need for things to be different than how they are. So if there is something that you are smelling in the air, for me, and I know this is not a popular opinion, but pickles, that you smell and have a distaste for, can you practice just being neutral in that and noticing that without having some sort of like or dislike, or at least noticing the tendency to like or dislike that thing and just taking that step back? Has anyone else studied the kleshas in this way? I hope this is resonant to you. Essential oils are another beautiful way to access sense of presence through either just rubbing them on your hands, using them in a bath, diffusing them in the air. Food, the sense of food, we talked about that. Hot drinks especially. I think that breath work for me falls under this category of sense of smell, because we're working with the breath through the nose. So breath work falls into that category. Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breath, Viloma pranayam, the interrupted breath, box breath. All these breath work practices. Ujjayi certainly taps into sense of touch as well, taste. A lot of these overlap. Candles can all bring calmness, enable presence. Yeah. And so it's nice to have these tools that we know help us to access this, because especially when we are living in a modern life, a very Western life, we tend to be a little busy because there is so much stimuli, there's so much happening, so much to do, so much going on, that even just lighting a candle can be enough to help bring you back into your body for a moment. And that creates that space over time. So any other ideas for sense of smell? Curious if anybody has any that I haven't thought of. flowers. Yes, beautiful. I think of honeysuckle bushes. We'd smell as a child. Yeah, we used to eat them in my grandmother's backyard. So sense of taste as well. And particularly with sense of smell, I think this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with Raga and Devesha, but noticing the somatic response in the body. So when I say that, what I mean is noticing whether there is any physical reaction. So not just a mental, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't like that, not just a thought pattern, but is there a physical constricting anywhere in the body in response, or softening, opening in response to any of these particular things? This is, I think, intuitively how we know what we like and don't like, but it takes skill to become aware and really tune in. Oh, the smell of rain. Oh gosh, good call. I hadn't thought of that. Absolutely. One of my favorite things, but it takes time to really hone that ability to notice a tightening or a softening of the physical body and where. So all of this is really beautiful information to have. The smell of a beach. I live very landlocked, so that is a very fond memory for me, especially the beach in Corfu. Okay, let's move on to sense of taste. Sense of taste closely related to sense of smell. And this one, not nearly as complex, right? Sense of taste, really, we're just dealing with food, drink, texture plays a role in this. We talked about this. And with sense of taste, really savoring the different sensations on the tongue, right? Seeing if you can taste the bitter, the sweet, the sour, the umami in whatever you're eating, right? Taking time to really connect with sense of taste and that same sort of somatic reaction, eating our food slowly and noticing how the body feels in response to certain things we eat. Getting to know our own body's digestion through sense of taste. So there may be something that tastes really delicious and then doesn't sit very well, even pretty quickly. Sense of taste, I think, is fairly clear cut. It's not one that I go into too much in the program, but if there's any other ideas for accessing presence through sense of taste, I would love to hear your thoughts or ideas around that. As I sip my coffee, it's still morning here in Kansas City. Shall we move on then to sense of sound? Sound, one of the most beautiful ways to sense this present moment awareness. Sound baths, gongs, chimes, drums, which can also evoke that sense of touch, right? We can feel the vibration, the sense of sound. Mantra, beautiful kirtan yesterday with Athena. I hope most of you have had the opportunity to kirtan. Chanting is my favorite way to access sense of sound. So the vibration in my own voice and my own body. Brahmari breath, the bee breath, the humming breath. Does anyone know Brahmari? Pranayam. It's the one where we cover the eyes, lightly close the ears, and make the vibration through the mouth, through the exhale with the breath. Silence. Yes, I was getting to that next. Thank you for bringing that up. So silence. And what is true silence, right? I think when we take away all that stimuli, when we turn off the radio, the podcast, when we turn off Spotify, and we just sit with the lack of noise, we start to notice. It's like when we sit in a yin practice and that first edge dissolves And we think, oh, we've relaxed. And then there's another edge to dissolve. There's another thing to hear. Silence is my favorite, I said mantra. So silence and mantra are my favorite ways to access presence. And silence, I think, is a very powerful tool, taking time for quiet moments throughout the day. So one of the things that I coach my students and my clients, encourage people to do is, for those of us, especially in the States that drive a lot, to really try driving your normal route without any music one day or every day. See how that changes how you feel, not only from point A to point B, but once you get to point B, once you get where you're going. Other ways to access sound, singing, listening to sounds in nature, the ocean, birds. Hearing again, this is the yogic practice of, for me, this is the yogic practice of satya, honesty. And it's about just witnessing, witness consciousness without needing things to be any certain way. Just things as they are. Any other ideas for sense of sound, accessing presence through sound? Let's move on then to the last sense, the sense of sight. So for sense of sight, obviously we can just be present with our vision, right? Be present with what we can see around us. And then like that sort of same layered effect of that we have in the yin practice, where we kind of see that first layer and then it dissolves and we can see the next layer. We can do that also with our sense of physical sight. We can start to see what's right in front of us and then what's beyond that and beyond that and beyond that. Art is a beautiful way to access presence through sense of sight. Art is also really beautiful because you really can't do much else when you're drawing. So blind line drawing. This was a technique that was introduced to me many, many years ago, and I had forgotten it, and then reintroduced to me by TJ in the recent training that I was so fortunate to attend on Corfu. So this technique of not looking at the page, so drawing, just gazing at what you're gazing at and letting the hand translate what the eye is seeing. A really beautiful way to access sense of sight. Coloring. So coloring mandala, colored pencils, crayons. Bird watching. Watching ducks on a pond. Watching the light and the waves. Another yogic technique for accessing presence through sense of sight has to do with dharana, concentration, and it's candle gazing. So lighting a candle, thank you. Lighting a candle and gazing into the flame for an amount of time to help hone your ability to focus your awareness on one place. Is this a practice that anyone has in their arsenal, in their toolbox, candle gazing? How do you feel about it? Yeah. Very relaxing. Hypnotic, yes. Yes, because your senses are being sort of honed to this one place, staring into a fire. Yeah. Wonderful sense of reverence. Yeah, thank you. I agree. Absolutely. There's maybe that reverence has to do with the sense of awe at the power of fire, light, and this connection that we can feel to that force that is a force of nature. And in that, remembering that we are nature ourselves, that is within us. So then moving to Pratyahara, as we move through the meditation in the beginning, we moved into the limb of yoga that is about withdrawing of the senses. So we can access presence in all these different ways. And this is yoga. It's not listed specifically in the limbs anywhere, but as I've connected all these different presence practices to the different limbs, I hope you see how this very much is a part of what practicing yoga is. Pardon me. So Pratyahara is the practice of drawing the awareness inward so that we are exploring the vast, vast experience of the inner landscape and connecting ultimately, as again, Cedric said yesterday, through these maps that we have of the body to that source energy somewhere within. Pratyahara is a layered practice. It takes time and patience, but it's a really beautiful way of getting to know ourselves, I think, and getting to really feel the difference between what's happening outside and the stillness that's always within. So all of these sensory ways that we can connect to the world around us are transient, right? Everything is moving, everything is shifting and changing in every moment. The breath is not still. When we find stillness in the body, even the body does not still. The heart beats, the blood pumps, the fluids move through the body. The breath moves without our control. And so accessing Pratyahara is an integral part of the practice of presence because it helps us to remember and realize that we are eternal, that we are that stillness beyond everything that moves around or within, outside. So before we get into any conversation to end, I'd like to once more, especially for people that are joining now, and bring us into a little practice of Pratyahara, a slightly deeper practice. You can stay seated, or if you'd like to lay down in your space, it'd be a good place, time to lay down. Again, you can wiggle the body, take a moment to get really comfortable. Close the eyes down. And it might be helpful to transition with a cleansing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Chances are, if you're here at the summit, if you're here in this session, this is a practice that is not new to you. It is quite familiar. And it can feel like coming home. It can feel like letting go, surrendering, softening. But as you draw your awareness inward and away from your senses, notice for you where it goes in the body. Notice what that space looks like, what it feels like. Notice if there are any objects or images there. Notice the spaciousness of this space that you've arrived in, even if it feels contained in some way. The Upanishads speak of a windless cave with a light that burns inside. Other traditions speak of a well of inner stillness you can access and dip into at any time. Notice what this place feels like for you. And then notice how your mind tunes in to your senses in this internal way. The lack of sense or perception of smell and sound, taste, touch. Can you feel the space between you and that? Can you feel the space between your direct awareness and the physical body? Can you feel present in yourself? The sense of coming home. We'll take just another moment or so here to just be still, relaxed, and quiet, withdrawn. We'll end this little meditation with a single Om. You're welcome to join me or to just listen for all the senses encompassed in the Om, a sense of touch through vibration, sound, maybe even smell as you breathe in, taste, and that internal sense of sight, that internal gaze. So for Om together, we inhale. Let the eyes float open when you're ready. Come back into your space. Take a second to adjust back into the room. To feel, again, the clothes on the skin. Swallow. Take a big sniff. Maybe a little hum as I did, sense of sound. Good. So I wanted to take a moment to finish to just talk about my program. It begins March 1st and will go through the end of the month. It's a daily program called Simply Presence. For the program, you get a calendar of practices that vary amongst these different techniques. Every Sunday, you'll get a mini yin yoga practice from me, which will be recorded. And you also will have a description so you can do it with me or you can do it alone by yourself. We'll also get a little recap of the week. The program also includes an invitation to a Slack group. So on Slack, we just connect through daily check-ins and insights, any responses. You're welcome. Yes, that's my website there. So to find the information for presence. For now, I'm just offering a wait list. So to get the wait list, I'm going to share my screen here quickly and just share this quick slide so that you've got the information on the screen. This is a 31-day yoga and mindfulness journey. I'll run this quarterly. March is the next time. You can join the wait list at my website, kbkcyoga.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Breathe with Katie Brown, and it's in my bio, the link. I'd love to chat for a second before we end our session about the difference between presence and mindfulness. If this is something you've thought about before, if you have any questions about the program, if you have any questions or thoughts about establishing a presence practice, or if any of these sort of exercises have been integral in your wellness journey, integral in finding a little bit more peace in your life. I'd love to just chat for a second, have a conversation about it. If anybody wants to unmute and just talk about how presence has affected their daily life, a presence practice or a mindfulness practice. Or if it's something you struggle with or wish that you could bring more into your day, today living. I'll put my Instagram handle in the chat for anyone that wants to connect. And for anyone that is staying, you're welcome, April. For anyone that's staying for the yin practice, we'll get started in about 10 minutes with a yin yoga practice that'll be about an hour long, designed to help you connect even deeper to that spaciousness within. It's very simple, the presence